mysterious death in the Deep South is raising fears that one of the ugliest chapters in American history is making a comeback. But as the media wrestles with that possibility, it may also be jumping the gun. WGBH's Adam Riley has more.
A disturbing story out of Jackson, Mississippi.
After 54-year-old Otis Bird's decomposing body was found in the woods behind his Mississippi home, the national media took notice because of how Bird may have died.
A black man hanging from a tree in Mississippi.
Hanging from a tree.
Hanging from a tree in Claiborne County.
It's not yet clear whether Bird was killed or took his own life, but that hasn't stopped several media outlets from suggesting that he was lynched.
You're talking about Mississippi, people think about whether this could be something horrific like a lynching. And
Mississippi's history with lynching is shameful. According to the Tuskegee Institute, 581 people were lynched there from 1882 to 1968, more than any other state. But Claiborne County Sheriff Marvin Lucas says it's too soon to suggest that's what happened here.
I refuse to bring race into this. Just remember that a young man died, regardless whether or not he was black or white.
Still, the NAACP has asked federal authorities to investigate whether Bird was the victim of a hate crime. Whether he was or wasn't, that's the way the media's coverage is leaning.
You know, one of the eerie things I found in this case was he has the same last name as the guy who was dragged to death
in Texas.
Is it Robert or James?
I thought it was Robert.
Well, I think it was James, but yeah, he was dragged to death in Texas like five years ago. So that jumped off the pages for me. But I think, you know, it may turn out to be a classic lynching, but to sort of use that language before the fact. And he was also hanging from sheets, which we didn't mention, but was noted in some of the in the broadcasts. And I think that's also a very eerie, symbolic, you know, suggesting that they couldn't find anything, you know, more, you know, effective to hang somebody with. So it had all the overtones of it, but we don't know.
And there were also theories that the sheets may have been connected. He'd spent some time in prison, and that's a common way to.
He had murdered somebody.
Right. I looked at a lot of coverage of this, and I thought that the media, for the most part, was quite responsible, because I don't think this is a story nationally. If it is simply just man found dead in woods, that sadly that happens, you know, all the time. What makes it a story is the connection to history, and I think that the CNN piece that we just showed in the clip, for example, that was about a minute and a half into it, after saying, you know, this man was found. It was only after that you brought it was brought up. This is the context for that. I thought on social media it was an entirely different spectrum, because people were just jumping to the immediate conclusion, which may be true and may not be true.
A great point about social media, which of course automatically goes there without any vetting or hesitation. All the more reason why mainstream or serious media needs to be more careful. Obviously, when you saw the details of the story, that's immediately the first thing everyone thought of. And I would point out, there was a proven lynching in Mississippi as recently as, 4 years ago? Yeah. So it's certainly not beyond the pale that this would happen. But in this current climate of racial tension and anxiety, you know, we've had the Michael Brown, where hands up, don't shoot. Now the Justice Department says that's not what happened. The media has got to be more careful and stick to the facts. And this business of the question mark at the end. Was it a lynching? Question mark. You know, we do that a lot. End of the line for Boston Olympics? Question mark. That's a way of putting an idea in play that you really don't have evidence for. No can do. That's not responsible.
Well, we are talking about an environment that is well known for this. So, you know, I agree with you that you can't jump to conclusions, and we have to be responsible. And of course, language is our thing that we work with. But you talked about the lynching 4 years ago in Mississippi. There was also a hanging of someone just in December, hanging from a playground in the same area. So Mississippi is not unfamiliar with this. The history is there. We just had this SAE fraternity talking about hanging from a tree. There's a lot of history to talk about, and maybe best to tell this story by saying, here's why people are reacting in this way. Here's where the history comes from, and to address those people who have said, when there's nooses have shown up at Columbia University, I didn't know that meant something. This is what it means. So there's an opportunity for journalists to do the kind of contextual reporting that we all should be doing in this instance before, you know, we know what the final ruling is.
Not to step on you, Dan, but all I'm saying is, wait a little bit, give it a little time, let some facts come out. Because if you jump the gun and it turns out this was just a suicide, it's already out there as a lynching, and the social media feeds on false facts.
Well, the playground hanging that Callie referred to was originally ruled to be a suicide, and now it's being investigated as a possible lynching. So it goes both ways. To your point about social media, John, the first I heard about this incident was on social media, and it was just flat out presented as a lynching. And of course, your reaction is, oh my God. And then you start to learn more, and you say, we don't know. But I agree with Josh that I think the media have been fairly responsible in reporting that this could be a suicide, this could be a murder, and federal authorities are starting to investigate, which it is. I don't really have a problem with that, but as tinder for something more irresponsible than that, I agree, this is dangerous ground.
Josh says the very fact that it's getting a mention sort of factors into your assumption that it's something more than just some poor guy.
And if it's proven that that wasn't what happened, field day for the deniers, who will lump that in with perhaps cases that do merit the L word and say, oh, it's all a lie.
Well, I also have to say, go back to your original point about Bird, because when I heard the name, I thought, oh my God, is this in the same place? And I had realized it was Texas, it was different. So all of that came into play.
It was James, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, James. Sorry. Okay.
All right.